I'm working on a sweater sleeve, and I thought that I would show you how to work a sleeve in the magic loop method. And so here I'm quite a ways down the sleeve, but this will just be the same whether you're just beginning the sleeve or whether you're further on. And so some of the reasons why you might want to try this technique is because you can get away with less equipment. And so if you've been knitting a sweater and you've been using a set of needles and a long cable, then you would be able to just go straight into the sleeve without having to change equipment. Some people don't like working with double pointed needles, and this is a method that would allow you to knit the sleeve without having to use double pointed needles. It can also be a cost savings. So it's a little bit less expensive if you don't have to purchase another set of tools such as double pointed needles. You can get away with just using your circulars. The circulars that I'm using are the ChaioGoo circulars. These are by far my favorite, and every knitter that I know loves these. And so this is a very popular set. It's an interchangeable set, so this would allow you to change the needle and change the cable length. And I am just knitting one sleeve at a time. Yes, it is possible to do two sleeves at a time, but we're just going to do one today. And I'm using a 22-inch circular needle or circular cable. So the key to this is that you need your cable long enough to be useful. So as an 18-inch circular probably wouldn't be long enough for me to do this. So you do need something that's a little bit longer, allowing you to pull it out. So I will show you how to work this. So basically, the setup is you're going to get your stitches on the needle, and you will have about 50% on the front and 50% on the back of the needle. And to get started, you will scoot your front needle into these stitches, and you're going to take the back needle and pull it out long enough to where it will loop around. So you can see there's a loop on this end and a loop on this end. And in order for this technique to work, your cable length needs to be long enough in order to do that. So then the next thing you need to be careful of is where this yarn is coming out. I'm using really dark yarn on this project. It's a navy blue, so that might be kind of hard to see. But you want to make sure that when you are working this, you're not creating an extra loop. And so you want it to make sure that your yarn is coming from this back needle and not that it's wrapped behind and around, because if you have this kind of a loop situation, you will end up with an extra stitch. So make sure that you are just coming out from underneath that, and you will just begin working this. I'll show you a whole sequence, and then I'll show you some tips and tricks. So this will be real-time knitting. You can see that I've got a stitch marker here marking my beginning of round, and I personally like to have my beginning of round in the middle of the needle, and that makes it a little bit easier for me to see this. This particular pattern that I'm working has decreases every so many rounds. So there's my beginning of round. This is just my marker showing where I've decreased. And I'm going to be keeping track of this because this is actually something that I am working on. So that's a completed round. Magic loop knitting is great for traveling. I know that I prefer this method if I'm taking a project on a plane or in the car, as opposed to double pointed needles, because I know that if I'm working on a project and I drop a needle and it goes rolling to the front of the plane, or if it gets lost down a car crack, that's a bigger issue. Magic Loop doesn't have that issue. So I have finished that front row, and so now it's time to switch this around. So what you're going to do is you're going to, you can see that this has no more stitches left on it. It's long. You're going to take your work and you're going to turn it. And now you're going to take this needle, which is now the front needle, and pull that, load those stitches, take the back needle, pull it long, and you're set up again. As far as the tension goes on this first stitch, you want to pull snug. Don't leave it loose, but you do want to pull it tight so you don't end up with a ladder of loose stitches. Once you get a little bit of practice with it, you'll get a feel for it. We're almost to the end again. Watch what happens. So I've worked all the way that. There's no stitches left on this one. This is now left long. I'm going to take these stitches and flip my work. Now I'm going to take this front needle, pull it, load the front stitches onto the needle, take the back needle, pull it long, and we're set up again. So you would just complete that process, complete those steps. And then one other tip that I want to share with you, if you are working on something and your loop disappears, like this, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Basically, you can see this allows that to make a tiny circle. You could try this on. This is a great way to try on your sweater and check your sleeve length, because this isn't going anywhere. Also, you can put this in your project bag like this and it will help keep your stitches where they're at. It will prevent them from sliding off of the end of the needles. And all you have to do to get started again is just take your stitches, and you don't have to be super precise about it, but there's about half, and then you can take this little end, pull that through, and then you're reset. So it's not the end of the world. And the other thing that's nice about being able to do that is on this particular pattern, as I work these decreases, I gradually get fewer and fewer stitches on this end. And so occasionally, as I start to feel that those are uneven and I have more stitches back here and less up here, I actually use that to redistribute my stitches to get more to a 50-50 distribution. So I hope that's helpful.